Friends, this is Ritesh here. Let me take you through a demo for a platform or framework which I am building actually. One of the modules within that framework, identity module, which is admin module essentially, which I have built completely. So let me take you through the overall working of the framework and the module quickly. So let's look at the entity relationship diagram. Here you could see key entities like users, department roles, permissions, and the derived entities, role permissions, user roles, user teams, and there are a couple of audit entities like user login and system audit. And there are three other entities which are related to user verification, which is part of the workflow engine. So this is the overall data structure or the database schema for the identity module. Looking at the details and then the relationships one to many, you would be able to guess the overall working of the identity module. Now let me quickly switch over to the code. Here's the code associated with the Nexura framework. The solution has around 8 to 9 projects. Resources is for keeping the artifacts related to architecture, code, and the database. Then we do have a source. We do have building blocks, which is centralized container for centralized services or applications, within which shared kernel is basically for the base entity and auditable entity, which would actually help to create the IDs for different entities by default and maintaining the creation and modification timestamps around it. Then I did create a customized API response service, which is capable of sending across the data packet along with success failure messages, including some of the exceptions if there are any, and other details associated with the API call back to the user interface. So that's about shared kernel. Then Nexura contracts. Within this service, we do have data transfer objects which are common and being used across the backend as well as on the front end side. The Blazor components are using these data transfer objects along with the application layer. So I tried to optimize the utilization of data transfer objects, putting it in a centralized service. Now let's quickly cover Nexura page DTO generation service. This is actually meant for creating standardized Blazor components along with associated DTOs. It is a heavy service, so I have unloaded it for quick run and testing of the application. Then Nexura platform. This is a centralized service or platform or wrapper, we can say, for validation, auditing, and authorization, logging, and exception management. And this is model agnostic. It can be used across various models within the framework. Right, so it is similar to Media R, just to give you some idea around it. Right, the video has to be short within 100 MB size, so that's why I'm just quickly running over the modules. Now let's quickly go through the API application domain and infrastructure layers, which is the standard implementation for clean architecture. Within API surface, I do have controllers: admin controller, audit controller, authentication controller. Admin controller has various admin related controller functions which cater to various services like creation of user, updation of user, creation of roles, permissions, departments, auditing, etc. Then for auditing, actually we do have a separate service, and in audit, as we covered in the database schema for identity module, we are auditing login, then system related activities, and along with that there are a couple of more audit services which we will discuss when we go through the UI execution, right? So these are the controller functions. So let me quickly just browse through, right? Audit controller, then authentication controller, and rest of the controllers are for other modules like sales, finance, or leads module, HR module, etc. That's in progress, that's work in progress. Now we have covered API layer. Let's look at application layer. Application layer typically has abstractions, interfaces for all the entities, and definitions, the signatures for the functions or the services. Then we do have use cases. Mostly the use cases are within admin role ambit, and then we do have separate audit use cases and authentication use case for login, for user login. And then we would have refresh token and revoke token services, which will be built on top of what the existing application has. So these are the use cases we just covered, and then dependency injection, where we are registering all the handlers services within application layer. Quickly moving on to domain. Here we do have all the entities, domain entities, which has properties and associated functions for creation, updation, etc. Now let's quickly move to infrastructure. The infrastructure layer has typically configurations, entity framework configurations for each entity, and then we do have repository services, wherein we do have implementation for all the abstraction interfaces for multiple functions or services within the ambit of those particular repositories or entities. And then dependency injection, where we are registering all the services, repository services for infra layer. Then there are a couple of common services for exceptions or logging, which are the prior version actually. Let's not cover that. And we do have some scalar queries as well here for the complex complex matrix data fetch for audit purposes. So that's for the infra layer. Now let me quickly move on to the UI layer. Here the UI layer is built using Blazor web application. I do have some common styling which is being used across various components, Blazor components within the application. Then let's cover components. I do have a layout framework over here, wherein I do have main layout, then left pane or the navigation layout, and the body layout, right? So overall the application would be basis the main layout, which would have the left navigation layout and the body layout, the main functioning area, I would say. On the pages part, we do have pages or components. We do have access assignment related components, access assign, which is used for assigning roles to users, then role permission for assigning permission to roles, right? Then we do have audit components. We will go through these in detail over the UI. Then auth service or auth component for login purposes. Then department related components, role permissions components for creation and updations, and then user components for user creation, updation, view purposes. And then we do have services which are used to serve these components for fetching data or updating data to the database using API calls, right? So the data would be shared over the HTTP network, and uh, and using JWT token, of course. So security is maintained using JWT token authorization and permissions, user permissions, right? So we do have RBAC functionality implemented, policy based role based authentication authorization, which is being implemented in the API layer using controller services. Now on the API, on the coming back to UI side, on the API part, as I mentioned earlier, I did customize the API responses. So some of the features are being implemented on the UI side just to be compatible with the backend, and then there are some wrappers around it for ease of use while invoking the API services, right? That's the API side. Then we do have authentication service, which actually helps for the user login. Then custom auth state provider, which helps to maintain user state uh, across user interactions over the UI for the session, session time span. And then there are some miscellaneous services, and then navigation service, navigation builder. So we are building navigation or the function points for logged in user dynamically basis the navigation builder, and the navigation functions will be created dynamically based on the user permissions which have been granted to the user. Then we have session. We are maintaining user session in user browser, right? As a session browser session, and then session state service actually helps to create the session within the browser and browse to the details whenever required. Session validation handler, this is used to validate the session whether the session is active or it's expired across all the API calls. So whenever there's a session timeout, user will be intimated to re-log in. So that takes care of the security part as well. We are maintaining 10 to 15 minutes of session for user from security standpoint as well, so that new JWT tokens are being issued to user and it's more secure. Let's quickly cover user context on the UI side. So this is the lightweight user context which is being used for maintaining the state. We are using user context for creating the state and maintaining it, and we have customized the state object, claims principal object, basically tailored to the Nexura framework using minimal properties from the claims principal object over here, right? So that's the overall walk over the code. Let me quickly run the application. This is the main screen, login screen, which will be presented upon hitting the application URL. So user has been logged in. This is the admin user. So admin user has most of the admin functionalities, function points available to him or her, and you could see various function points available for functioning to the user. Now view user, this is user to user view feature. create users. Here we can create user, and there are client side validations already been taken care, like username, email, all the validations required for the properties, respective properties, has been taken care. Then we do have update user over here. Let me quickly update. Let's see, user 26. Let's deactivate the user. So this is how the updated successful updation for the entity, or successful updation for the creation of the entity will be shown after successful creation or updation. We can verify, or the user admin user can quickly verify whether it's done or not. So you can see user 25, this has been modified recently, and what has been modified is its status from true to false. Right, so let's quickly create a user as well, or we will create user later on, when we'll switch over to another instance. We'll try to switch over to another instance. Let me quickly go over some of the other function points. Create roles, role code, role name, role description. So this is the format which is being suggested, or being suggested for creation of user role codes. Let me create one role 36. Right, okay, department has to be created. Let's give sales management as a department. Create active. So the role has been created. We can see it in the system log. Right, sales role 36 has been created with these details. Now for updation of role, these are the non-editable fields: role code and department. Let me select system auditor. So if I want it only, let's make this role inactive for now. Right, so that has been updated, and we can see the system admin role has been modified, and its active status has been changed from true to false. Similarly, we do have create permission, update permissions, update permissions, and update departments. We have bulk updates because there's nothing much as of now to update. It's just the department or permission name. So let's just try updating this for testing purpose. Okay, 13 we have put test purpose. For 12 we have removed test purpose. Okay, this has been updated, you can see it. 12 and 10, 13 has been changed. Right, for 12 we removed test purpose, and for 13 we put test purpose. And then we do have department similar to the roles creation. It works similar. Then update departments, we just covered update permissions, so it works on similar grounds. Then audits, here are the login audits. These are my login attempts. It's almost more than 250. So these are all for testing and enhancing the application of framework. Right. Okay, so now let's quickly look at role audits. Here's a matrix data page, I would say. So the hierarchy is department to role to permission to user, right? And all the records are being displayed alphabetically based on department. And you could hopefully make out from these details, so I would not go in details. Just let me explain one case. Let's say sales department. So for sales, let's just filter sales. So here we do have sales department associated roles, permissions, which are the users who have been granted the sales execution sales lead role. So you can see all data over here, right? Then moving to system audits, we already covered this. Then user audits, these many users are available currently in the system. You could see all the details of each of the user code, username, email, whether the user is active, when it was created, modified, last modified. Then on the access part, these are the important key functionalities. So this is for assigning roles to user. We will select an user, let's say user 21. So there are no permissions right now. Let's assign user HR admin and sales executive roles to this user. User role assigned, and we can see user role has been updated by username user, and these are the key properties and these are the details associated with it, right? And then we do have permission assignment to the role. Let's select a role. So temporary 11, let's give him access assign, audit login, and save assignment, right? And again we can see role permission has been updated for these audit login, access login, access assign, and these are the details. Now let's create a user, completely brand new user. Temp dot user 79, temp dot user 79 at nexora.com, temp dot user 79, and let's put him under user code external. So we do have these 4 categories of users: employee, vendor, system, and external. And then there are user codes automatically being generated for each of the category basis the maximum available user code. So let's create the user temp dot user 79 has been created. Now let's switch over to another instance. Right. Let's look at how it looks. Temp dot user 79, temp dot user 79, sign in. So you could see the landing layout or the dashboard for this user has no function points available right now because we didn't assign anything to this newly created user. So let's give him some access. So let's give him access user 79. Let's give him system admin access, which has all the function points, right? So this has been updated. If you want to see what all permissions are being granted to system admin, we can see it in here. So these are the functions or permissions being granted to system admin, right? So now over here for temp dot user 79, now the permissions are being granted. So let's relog in. And you can see all the function points available to temp.user 79, right? Just similar to what we had. This is the workflow engine function point verify users, as I mentioned earlier while discussing or explaining the identity schema. So this function point is work in progress, so I will probably create another video once this functionality is complete, right? So all other function points are as is, just similar to other, right? So that's it for this demo. Thanks for your time. Looking at time constraint, hopefully I did make this video within the permissible upload size. Okay, so let's thank you so much for your time.